You cannot trust anything these politicians are saying. And these people who have power and in control of the fiat currency, you can't trust a word they say, because everything they do is crafted to keep themselves in power, to keep the system which puts money in their pocket running. All we need to do is get more of us to vote with our feet, and these people, it's going to collapse. Their system is going to collapse, because without us, if we don't participate in it, if we save in gold and we save in Bitcoin, eventually they won't have any funding.
Hey guys, welcome back to Let's Talk Crypto. Recently, there has been much speculation that the United States may have to follow the example of the BRICS countries, who are seeking to create their own global reserve asset, backed by commodities. In a recent interview with Kitco News, Lawrence Lepard discussed the decline of the dollar, and the rise of hard assets such as gold and Bitcoin. Larry believes that we're at the end of the road for the dollar, and that gold and oil are becoming the new reserve assets. According to Larry, as the entire world enters an inflationary period, some countries will decide to back their currency with gold, which will mark the end of the dollar. As far as Bitcoin becoming the reserve asset that could back a currency, Larry doesn't see that happening anytime soon. In his own words, Bitcoin is not ready yet. Let's listen to Lawrence Lepard as he makes a case for sound money being the solution to the broken monetary system that is falling apart. But before we do, please consider subscribing to our channel, as we bring you daily content on the latest crypto news. And now, let's jump right into the video.
China and Russia, being the two most, important, have decided that they're not going to accept dollars anymore. They don't want to accept dollars anymore because they know we're printing way too many of them. And so they're trading with, they're establishing alternatives. As you pointed out, they're working on establishing a BRICS currency. It's obviously very early, going to take a lot of time for that to be accepted. But I think the more important thing that's happened, it has happened, and you can see it, is they're actually trading with each other without using dollars. We don't need no stinking dollars. And so, all of these countries have woken up as a result of the mismove in my belief, on the part of the U.S. grabbing those currency reserves. And let's make a distinction between currencies and then reserve assets and investments, right? And so currencies, look, you can own a dollar for a minute. But you can FX it into something else. So even if the dollar is part of a trade chain, nobody wants to hold the dollar. And that's the real important thing. To me, it's really not about one piece of paper, one currency versus another currency. It's more about all these currencies against what I consider to be the supreme currencies, which are Bitcoin and gold, the ones that can't be printed, right? And so to your question of, can they create a BRICS currency? Very possibly. But I'm skeptical, to be honest with you, because it takes time. I've watched how long it's taken Bitcoin to emerge, and it's still not even close to being a currency. It's still just an emerging small trend. But I tell you what's more important in my view, Michelle, is that I think that these, gold, the 5,000-year-old currency that, by the way, China owns a lot more of than they report, and oil, kind of a liquid form of currency. Admittedly, it gets burnt up, but to me, these are becoming the new reserve assets. What I'm interested in is how all of these currencies do against what I consider to be sound money currencies. And if we get into an inflationary period, it's going to be inflationary everywhere, including in China and Russia. And so my sense is at that point in time, there'll be a game theory step that'll take place. And one of these countries will say, you know what, this isn't acceptable. We've just got too goddamn much inflation. We're going to back our currency with gold. Mm-hmm. And why would they choose gold? Because it's accepted. It's widely distributed. It's got 5,000 years of history, and Bitcoin's not ready. Someday, Bitcoin could become a reserve currency, but that's a lot of years away. When the US dollar, or when some of the other currencies start to really hyperinflate or get close to hyperinflation, some country, probably China, will say, we're backing the yuan with gold. And then it'll be just game, set, and match. And, nobody will want to hold any currency that's not backed by something sound like gold. It blew my mind. $42 billion went out of Silicon Valley Bank in one day. This is not the 1930s. This is not, the Bailey Savings and Loan that we're lining up outside of. A click of a mouse can move $1 billion. And so, and we've got social media, we've got instant communications, everybody's turned on and switched on. And once this thing really starts to get rolling, look at how quickly Silicon Valley Bank failed. They reported, the Saudis or the Middle Eastern investment group say, well, we're not going to invest in it. Then the 10K came out, which was a terrible 10K. Then they sold some, held for at the market securities at a loss, and bang, a week later it was gone. Just everybody like looked at it and said, "Oh shit, this thing's deeply in trouble," and it was gone. And that, to me, that same thing could happen here. But you really want to be a couple days early rather than a few days too late, because if it does happen, it could happen pretty quickly, in my opinion.
We now have two world leaders stating that we will see changes like the world has not seen in 100 years. Let's play a short clip from their recent meeting in Moscow and get Larry's thoughts on what this means for the geopolitical and monetary landscape.
Yeah, that's scary. These countries have been on the outs, and the U.S. has acted in a way that, in my opinion, hasn't always been in good faith. And as a result of that, they're voting with their feet and saying, the United States has wielded a lot of power, and they've used it to hurt both our countries in certain ways, and so we're gonna fight back. It's not good when you see an alliance coming around the world against your own country. All the stuff we see coming, I'm not rooting for any of it. I think what the Fed has done is evil, but here we are. And as a result of that, I think what these countries are saying to us is, be prepared because we're plotting against you. The thing that really would stop all these people in their tracks is if the world would get enlightened enough to realize just how stupid and bad they are, and we would demand. I mean, if somebody said on Twitter the other day, said if the founding fathers were alive, they'd be marching on Washington. Let's just look at the Silicon Valley Bank, for example, because this one really burns me. The black letter law of Dodd-Frank said we're not bailing out banks anymore. If they fail, the depositors are going to take a hit. Well, about a month ago, less than a month ago, earlier in the month of March, Silicon Valley Bank failed, and that law, well, we're just going to change that. We're going to bail these guys out, and we're going to protect everybody. And that's just typical. And so you cannot trust anything these politicians are saying. And these people who have power and in control of the fiat currency, you can't trust a word they say, because everything they do is crafted to keep themselves in power, to keep the system which puts money in their pocket running. With each iteration of them changing the rules, more and more people are waking up. And the internet and social media and alternatives have arisen. Remember, in terms of numbers, in terms of sheer numbers, these elites who run the system, who benefit from the system, are badly outnumbered by the average. I mean, they're just, the numbers are way against them. Now, the problem is that, a lot of those people who should be angry about it and should be fighting them are just struggling to survive. And so they can't think about it. But the point I guess I'm trying to make is that, as an example, take Bitcoin. Bitcoin didn't exist 15 years ago. We have now got an entire young population of 30-year-olds that are Austrian economists because they read Saifedean's book, The Bitcoin Standard, right? And they're pissed off, and they know that they're not going to get any Social Security, and they know that the boomers have screwed them, and they know that they can't afford a house because there's too much inflation, and they're aware of just how screwed up this system is, and so they are now fighting to get rid of, the broken monetary system, the broken politicians, the corruption, all of it. And there's some boomers like me and others who are doing the same. And anyone who's buying gold or anyone who's buying Bitcoin knows the monetary system is broken, and they're voting with their feet. And so all we need to do is get more of us to vote with our feet. And these people, it's going to collapse. Their system is going to collapse because without us, if we don't participate in it, if we save in gold and we save in Bitcoin, and we don't buy all the bullshit that they're selling, eventually they won't have any funding. And by the way, we'll have all the marbles. I mean, gold at $10,000 an ounce, Bitcoin at $1 million a coin, and it's going to, who's rich is going to be a lot different than who's rich right now, right?
Larry notes that as people become more distrustful of politicians and their corrupt system, and more aware of the alternatives that have arisen, they will revolt and fight back. In Larry's opinion, the best way to fight is to opt out of the fiat system altogether, and save money in gold and Bitcoin. What do you think of Larry's view of a multipolar world, with currencies backed by gold? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give us a like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. This is Let's Talk Crypto, and we'll see you in the next video.